So it just allows a lot of things to happen. So it'll be interesting to see how this moon dance transpires and what, how the paranormal or the magnetics affect what you're doing.
Well, tell them about the actual Woodland, what the properties are there.
Well, we know Lawrence just knows a little bit about woodland altars too and the geology there. And it's a special place magnetically because the plate, the geologic plate has slid down off of the top, if you will, and filled woodland altars in with a younger formation of what we call Ohio shale. It's a black shale, and there's also some Mississippian rock on top of that Devonian. So it's even younger, but Woodland Altars is in a unique part of the crater that rock has been displaced 300 million years ago. And we get to experience that, I think, at least the magnetics of it. And we're pretty well protected there, at least from storms. I don't know if you ever had that experience out there when you were working there with storms.
Lawrence?
No, you didn't have that? Yeah, we had one conference there and there were storms coming out of Cincinnati towards us. It's kind of like a derecho type of thing. And the storms dissipated when they got to Serpent Mound on the other side of the crater. And they're just, there's your proof. We're all watching the sky and these storms just turn around and disappear.
Yeah, I've experienced that before at there.
Okay.
Yeah, same thing, them coming from Cincinnati and kind of seeing them break up almost before it gets to us. It was
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not topography, it's all about the magnetics, which makes it a special area, I think. Yes, Terry.
I want to hear Lawrence's story. This is a little off subject, but it's on subject because we're going to be at Woodland Altars. And Lawrence has worked there for many years, even though he's just in his 20s. Can you tell him about the night of the crop circle? What happened to you, please?
Yeah. So this is kind of, if there was an origin story of how I ended up knowing the Star family, when I was, in my early 20s, I worked there at Woodland Altars as a naturalist for 3 years. I actually went and did my drum training in Georgia and then came back. So it was over a 4-year span. But one time we showed up to do our training, our Serpent Mound training, and we drove by the first day and nothing in the field. And that night, at the time I was studying a lot of Jewish mysticism and Kabbalistic things. And I was out doing my nightly meditations and drumming on the prairie there at Woodland Altars. And I saw a giant bluish white orb move. And this is me being, not complete skeptic, because I was always into these things even when I was little, but had never really had an experience. And even today, like in my mind, I can't rationalize what I saw. But it seemed like it was very far away, but very close. It moved across the sky. It stopped in front of me, out in the distance, and then moved on. And the next day when we went to go finish our Serpent Mound training, the crop circle was there. And we pull up, and there's cars down there. And that whole time there was such a buzz of energy that was happening, and for me, like, it's hard to separate, what was just my youthful learning and what was, the energies that were always there. Like when I'm at Woodland Altars and in that area, like Tom said, just the rock formations themselves give off a certain energy. And there's definitely, because of the bedrock, a different plant types that we find down there because of the pH or whatnot in the soils. So I didn't realize that at the same time. I didn't know the other drummers in the area, but I guess at Rick Potts, there was drumming going on also. Yeah. So having that, synchronistic connection with people energetically. Sometimes I know there's people out there right now who are, vibing on all the different things that we're doing, and they really haven't even found out that this is, the community that they're, spiritually connected with. And that was kind of my experience. And then after they started having crop circle investigation meetings, which I just found out was Jeff Wilson, which after all these years, I didn't even put that connection together until he was out here talking with us. And then there was a group of people who said that they were from the Star Nation at this meeting. And I didn't put that together until I started seeing the events, the StarKnowledge events, years later. And that's when I kind of wanted to come back to Woodland Altars and contacted Terry. And, so that experience of seeing the crop circle was, such a pivotal turn in, the course that I was already studying, but it really locked me into kind of the energies of the StarKnowledge family and of Ohio in general, just what was going on deeper into the mounds. And all these years later, I have, it's continued to become, part of my life and part of the culture that we share here in Ohio.
Have you seen the book that Rick Potts has, the album for the Night of the Crop Circle?
No, not at all.
Because I was up there and we all got ran off from the lightning about midnight. And everyone was, not everyone, but a lot of people were taking pictures like they always do. There's a couple of hundred people there drumming. And all the pictures came back, and Rick has them in an album, and they all have hundreds of orbs in them.
Yeah, see.
And some of them had geometrical patterns, some of them had faces. You just got to go, what the heck was in the air? Because since then, that hasn't happened.
Oh, wow.
You'll get a few orbs here and there, but when you see that amount of orbs in a picture, in everyone's pictures, it says there's something going on. And it was like I don't know how you would put that. It was a pre-notion or preconceived thing with energy that something was going to happen, and it did.
And it did, yeah.
It might have been with that UFO. It may have been buzzing around there, getting ready to do whatever it was going to do.
Yeah.
And put that design in the field, but it's pretty sweet. And since that's happened, we figured out that crop circle was right at the end of the fault that tees off of the one going down 41.
Oh.
If you look at the rise, there's a slight rise in that field, and it's actually on top of a mound that's been worked down by farming. So you look at all those things and put them together, and you go like, this is really a high energy point, and it allowed something like that to happen. So it's pretty cool when you put it all together, but it takes years to figure it out. You look at it initially, you say, oh, Bob and Ted were out there with the string and the board, and that's the way the sheriff's department portrayed it. And of course, Jeff Wilson knew it was something different. I knew it was something different, but I wasn't a researcher in that area. But at least we got the experience, and hopefully there'll be another one sometime.
Well, you went to the crop circle. Did Lawrence get to
Did
go?
you get to go in the crop circle?
I didn't walk down into the actual field.
Yeah, that was because of the soybean crop in there.
Yeah.
I think even after the crop was harvested, there was still an energy there. And I think to this day, you could probably walk in there and feel some type of energy. So it's just a point where things happen. So, and apparently there were some blue orbs spotted in that field at that time or early in the morning.
Early in the morning.
So whoever did it, they were on it.
Yeah.
They weren't from around here. But anyway, that's the kind of things we like to hear about. And that was one that I never heard of with the light in the sky. So there's another piece of the puzzle.
So, Thomas, I have to ask you, with the energy of this land, I know since I've been coming, when I first came to Serpent Mound and stayed at Woodland Altars, I can remember for the first couple of times, every time I would come, I would be vibrating, like literally vibrating to the point where I couldn't sleep. And I was going on 3-day stretches with no sleep because the energy was just so intense. How you had said about how the moon dance and the vibration of that dance, how it's going to change. Have you and Terry noticed anything since we first began doing moon dance? Because we first started in 2020 on your property at House of Pickups, and then we've been doing it at Serpent Mound ever since. Have you noticed any changes, any shifts in the energy?
Wow. Since what was the first one? Was that 2020? It was in the winter, right? Winter solstice, I believe.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I didn't really have to think about the shift in energy. I know there's been more sightings of at our place of the Doppelganger effect, you know, with the animals now. But I haven't really noticed anything different in the feeling. Of course, more and more people are coming to Serpent Mound thanks to the media and putting it out there, you know, that there are anomalies here, and we're getting a bigger crowd of, if you will, of people that are interested. So, and that's all part of, you know, because we keep advertising what we're doing, and people come in looking for groups like Lawrence says he's searching for a group of people, and they were right there under his nose the whole time. So we're really flying under the radar, and the news media, or not necessarily the news, but the just the media in general, the news stations, or you know, like Discovery and History, Gaia. I mean, and every time, like this morning, I did a podcast for a paranormal group. And every time we do something like that, someone else picks up on it, and the next thing you know, they're showing up. And so our group is small, but it's growing, and that it's not diminishing. Every day it's getting bigger and bigger. And I kind of like the way it's growing, because we get to know the people that are coming in, and they're not just flooding in by the hundreds. It's just one at a time, and it's just nice to see new faces and find out what they're up to, see what they're investigating. And that's kind of like being the bartender of the alternate universe.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect.
You've got that lifelong friendship. I mean, like with Lawrence, how many years have you been coming back, Lawrence?
He's been coming to the rock shop before this
I've been coming. I mean, I first went to Serpent Mound almost 30 years ago. I met Thomas 25 years ago, almost, I think. And then I've been coming to these events for 9 years.
Yeah.
So it's been a long history. And I want to say, you know, something about, you know, seeing that area over time, just like he was talking about the gas station.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of change over the years, and Woodland Altars itself, we all left, a lot of us who were working there, because a shift that happened and they started to log that area. When I go there, you know, there's this, I see all of you not only healing each other, but also bringing a healing back to that land. If you look over from the stage, there's a lot of trees that are down. That was an intact. I mean, it's like seeing old friends of mine, corpses laying there, and thinking about the owls and the salamanders and all the different things that I would encounter in that very valley, you know, on the daily, that doesn't live there anymore. And this is a lot of the work that we, you know, me and my friends do, you know, and they say that when you do environmental work, you live in a world of wounds, because you if you know what's missing, if you don't know what's missing, then it all looks beautiful and natural if you don't live in those areas very often. So for me, when I go out into the forest, I go and check different areas that I used to meditate in, you know, and going back to those areas after 20 something years. And even during the eclipse, I was way out in the woods by myself in one of my sacred spots. And I do see a change in the energetics of the trees and the flowers, almost like a hope. Because that place is Woodland Altars. It was owned by a Church of the Brethren. There was a lot of prayer that was going on there. There was a lot of youthful exploration and energy that went on there. And this is probably right now the most energetic dump of positivity that land gets from us going there. And since it's after this time where it's actually healing, seeing the small saplings and things kind of growing up with the energy of the star family being there is different than, what it had been there before. So we are also healing that land. I mean, and the connections for me, there's actually a slide that's there, a water slide that no one ever notices because it's in the corner. But that was the water slide from the amusement park from my hometown that I used to slide on when I was 7 years old. So, and they brought it there when I was in my 20s, and I was like, what is going on here? So that land itself has a lot of, deep connection for me. And close to there's an area where the different fault lines come together over on Rocky Fort Gorge when I used to work for a Highlands Nature Sanctuary. And there's actually a cave that goes back about a quarter mile, and there's a spring-fed pool that comes out of this cave. This is, for me, one of the most sacred places in Southern Ohio. So we're also in an area, just being at Woodland Altars in the Serpent Mound, but that area in total has so much energetic things that are going on. And we are actually affecting that when people are at these other sites in the area meditating and praying, not knowing even that we're there, they're feeling that, in these other sites in different places. So it is amazing to see that on that level. I definitely noticed the energetics in the forest itself changing over the years.
Yeah, it's healing, and it has space to heal. And if you go back to the creation of Serpent Mound, what it was for, planting and harvesting, farmers doing sun worship, and it's been going on now for 2,700 years out there. All the different cultures that have been there for the 1,000 or almost 2,000 years doing the very thing that we're doing. We're doing ceremony. We're bringing people together. And they honor the place so much they were burying their dead there, but yet they had a place for ceremony. So, it's been going on for a long time, and we're just continuing that process. And I think the land will always heal because it's going to remain the way it is.
And we're on subject, but off subject a little bit. What I find fascinating that my kids brought to my attention, and Thomas and then Lawrence can talk about it, but the glacier and some of the flora and fauna that happen no place else on Earth. Thomas?
Lawrence could address the flora and fauna there. I
But
mean,
you tell them about the glacier.
well, the fact that Woodland Altars was not glaciated the last time around, and so the atmosphere and the ground there is not sterilized like it is over by Serpent Mound. And actually, Serpent Mound's not sterilized either because the glacier stopped right there at that high ledge, that dolomite ledge. So there's all this rare flora and fauna there. Some of them were even, according to Larry Henry, when I used to know him, he was saying that there's some plants up there at the Seven Caves area that were thought to be extinct. And they can't even talk about it because people come in and steal the darn things. So you think about that. It's just like a lot of people say it's the Garden of Eden. And maybe it was to a lot of people that came here, but they were all coming there and they're praying and doing ceremony and honoring the place for what it is. And I think it's just cool that we're carrying that on, continuing it. And so it's up to us, and it's a good feeling. So
Lawrence, can you unmute yourself now and talk about the flora in that area?
Yeah, that it's really interesting. And Thomas mentioned Larry Henry, who was my mentor 20 years ago in the area, and still follow him. He's out in the forest daily, keeping track of things that are happening. But it's really interesting in working at the Seven Caves area and in that whole region. I actually lived on Bacon Flat, which is right around the corner from Tom and Terry, for a while, in a house that you walk down there. One of the things I noticed, the snow trilliums when I come down for the different seasonal things, and this is one of the things about using Serpent Mound as a calendar and really recognizing the use of it, not just the importance, but tapping in. So when I come there for these events, and I love that they are on, these 4 points, so I can measure the plants. I come down for equinox and I get to see the snow trilliums that I don't get to see other places. At this time of year, I'll see forest plants. But one of the big things that I noticed in that area, because of the soil type and because of the unglaciation that we have in Adams County. And so thinking about the 4 sacred plants to a lot of indigenous people here, and the ones that I was taught as a child, the tobacco, sweetgrass, cedar, here that we have all of these cedar trees that grow in Adams County because of the soil type. And that alone, is one of the things that, we don't have the sage like you will out west. We have sweetgrass in different areas, but a lot of that's depleted. Like we grow it on our farms, we grow tobacco, but it's not naturally growing. So one of the gifts of Adams County, sacred, as far as sacred plants, is that it gives us the cedar trees as this 4th sacred plant. And it's one of the things that I've seen used a lot, even, kind of inadvertently by people, but a lot of times I see people making little cedar smudges at our events because they'll, just gravitate towards it and the smell of it burning, or see people even afterwards making cedar. And I feel like those plants themselves are speaking to us when we're down there and getting us to recognize, its divinity. And that's one of the things that I most think about when I'm, down there in that area. I always try to take a few different cedars. And over on the 7 caves, there is these ancient cedar trees that stick out of the rock and hang over the canyon by the cave sites. So that whole area down there, that's the thing I feel for, the sacred community that comes down, collecting, when you're there, to connect with those plants, and then to take that energy in a small cedar bundle back to whatever ceremony you're doing is another way that you can connect and spread that energy that we, collectively build when we're down there.
They're listening with their heart to that. So to each of you that come to this event, that are drawn to Serpent Mound, that are drawn to the House of Facops, come with that open mind and open heart, and just allow your journey to unfold from there, because you're going to be amazed at the ride that you're going to be on.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. No expectations. Kind of like the second marriage, no expectations. But it's a new beginning, right? So you got to go into it with an open mind and an open heart. And there's not many places around where you can do that these days. So it's a special event, a special time, and a special place, and with special people. And to bring all that together, it's I got to thank Terry for doing that, because that's her brainchild. And she's been doing it ever since she was in high school, creating events to be all inclusive. And I think that's important. And so her beliefs are being fulfilled, and it's nice to see it not being hindered. It's free flowing, and anything is possible. So that's the way I look at it.
Thank you. I'd like to end with everyone's final thoughts. So, Lawrence, can you unmute? What would you like to leave us with today? Your final thoughts, what's in your heart?
Final thought. It's always nice, the build-up, I feel, for me, when these events are coming up, when the solstices are coming up, when equinoxes. And this is really unique because a lot of times we aren't there on solstices, and this is another opportunity to observe this area, to observe the energies with everybody. And I think about when I was there for the morning rise at Serpent Mound on one of the spring equinoxes, and there was only a few people there, and the Crystal Skull was there, and some other people who weren't at our events, and we were looking at Venus on one side and the sun coming up on the other, and right above Venus in the tree, two bald eagles came and landed and watched the sunrise with us.
Wow.
And those are the type things that happen. So, when you're there and just being in the moment. So for me, it's always, it's almost such a sense of anticipation of the gathering. And when I was younger, I spent a lot of time traveling around out west and going to large rainbow gatherings of 50,000 people in the national forest. And I don't travel as much, so it's nice to have this thing be so close relatively for me. So I look forward, just the anticipation growing over these next few weeks, and everybody start dancing now so that you're nice and loosened up. This is from the dance teacher. I'll have several dance events coming up, but make sure we're all doing our stretches, our breathing, getting ready to be able to do this thing. So that's the thing, just the anticipation for me just builds energetically and into all my other events that I have all the way up until then. So I look forward to seeing you all.